Hey, MotoAmerica fans. Welcome to another edition of Off Track, our weekly MotoAmerica podcast. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and I'm joined as always by Sean Bice. Sean, good day. How are you?
Doing great. Paul, people don't know when we do these podcasts, obviously they generally come out on Saturday morning, early for you, a lot earlier for you, early for me too. But what I'm getting at is we record them at different times and we normally do it during the day. This is a different one for us. I'm just going to come right out and say we're actually recording this on a Thursday. For me, it's Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. So it's kind of interesting. We've never done one this time of the day, but I kind of feel good about it. I mean, the sun's going down. I feel kind of relaxed and happy. It almost feels like the way we are at the end of a race day when we're, kind of thinking about what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually happy hour here in San Clemente, so you got that going for you. I'll try to keep calm and relaxed, but I'm pretty pumped today. We've got the guy who probably has made the biggest news since our season started. Cameron Beaubier got out, shot out of with the gun there right away, and won three of the first four HONOS Superbike races. Both rounds being held at Road America, one without fans, the second one with fans. But in the second race at Road America 2, Cameron made a little bit of a mistake. There's that bump down there in turn one that you don't want to hit, and he hit it and crashed out of the race. And lo and behold, we had a battle for the rest of the race with Bobby Fong and Jake Gagne. So we knew at that point that we were going to have a new winner, somebody that hadn't won a Superbike race before, whether it be Bobby or Jake. And it turned out to be Bobby. It was kind of cool, and that was the 100th Superbike race that we've put on at MotoAmerica. Obviously, AMA Superbike was before us, and we continue to run the AMA Superbike series. But as far as keeping track of races that we've actually done, that was our century mark, our 100th race, and it was kind of cool that Bobby Fong decided to make that his first win. So this guy, he's no stranger to winning. I mean, if you think he hasn't won a lot, then you haven't looked in the books, because he's got a total of 16 MotoAmerica wins across three classes. And last year, of course, he was our Super Sport champion with 6 wins. But now he's stepped up to the Superbike class. Fortunately, I think for him, he got to stay with his team that he already felt comfortable with, which is the M4 ECSTAR Suzuki team. And he's picked up right where he left off. He's had 2 good weekends at Road America and ready for Road Atlanta here in the next couple of weeks. So Bobby, welcome to our podcast. We've had you on before. You're always a fun guest. And how are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing good, man. I'm just heading back home from doing a little motocross and trying to train in this heat, man, because Atlanta is probably going to be just miserable weather and very hot. So I'm trying to train in the heat as much as I can so I don't have any excuses, really.
Well, how careful are you when you ride those things?
Everybody says most riders say they're careful, but at the end of the day, we want to go fast, you know what I mean? But, I'm in the corners. I try to do my thing and, push the limits. And, but, I ride on a pretty tame motocross track, it's nothing too crazy. But I'm not the guy to lay that thing like a pancake and clear the quad. I'm not that guy. But, I do what is necessary to try to win some road races.
Bobby, do you feel any different after this win? Like Paul said, you've won a lot of races in all kinds of race classes. Getting this one, is it extra special, and does it make you even more motivated to win the next one, or do you feel like, hey, this is just my job? I like to win, but I also like to win all the time, so I'm just going to keep at it like I always do.
No doubt. I mean, it's a great feeling. You know what I mean? I've been wanting to do this my whole racing career, is win a Superbike race. But at the end of the day, Cameron's still a little bit faster than me. He was a few tenths faster than me that weekend in that race, and yeah, I got the win. But we have some work to do. So I'm not satisfied for sure. And if anything, I'm more motivated to beat him heads up, or try to beat him heads up. You know what I mean? He's the champion, and we're all trying to chase Cameron. So we definitely had some work to do, but we're closing that gap. So that's all that matters, and we're improving each time on the bike. So that's good. But I mean, the feeling was unreal. But if you know me personally, I'm not easily satisfied. So it was cool for the day, but on Monday morning waking up, you're just trying to think of what you're going to try to do to be a better rider and be better overall for the next round. So yeah, it's just another day in the office now. That's behind us, but I want to get the ball rolling because it was a good feeling standing up on the Superbike podium.
What right now with the bike? You obviously won the championship last year in Supersport on a Suzuki GSXR 600, which obviously is a fairly different motorcycle than the GSXR 1000 Superbike that you're riding this year. There's some changes there, of course. Can you talk about what you're kind of dealing with at the beginning of the season? Is it fitting on the bike? Is it certain things engine braking? If obviously I don't want to get super specific with any secrets, but what are the things that you're trying to do to the bike or even to yourself to sort of adapt to being on this motorcycle?
In the beginning, it was a big, like the first test at Barber, man, that was a big change. Just obviously we spoke, the ergonomics of the bike and just getting used to it and changing my style again for a big bike. But now, now there's so much stuff you can do on a super bike to make it. I mean, we can move the pivots, swing arms. I mean, you name it, we could change that motorcycle upside down. So I mean, and we're still playing with things. We don't know exactly our baseline for sure for every track, but we picked the best one for Road America for myself. But not alone the bike setup, it's the electronics. Like for example, um, I could, in the last sector at Road America, it's like from out of Canada corner to the right, left, and it's not even hard to do. Like you're just wide open on the motorcycle, but no matter what, the Yamahas will pull us by like 3/10, and you're wide open. You know what I mean? And then it's all electronic stuff, and sometimes no matter how hard you ride, if the electronics aren't proper or they're not, close to being ideal, I mean, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. You know what I mean? You're just going to be, so it's a lot more than just riding a motorcycle. It's like you got to set that thing up and you got to be halfway decent between the ears to understand what the hell is going on.
Well, then you're in real trouble.
I know, I know, I know.
Okay, I got a question for you. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like we all love Tony, and
yeah.
I mean, I want to know like how hard is it? I mean, you want to beat your teammate, but how hard is it to be around him and be in the truck when he's had such a miserable start to the season? I mean, is it? I mean, you're pumped because you're beating him, but then I don't know. I think you're the same way I am a little bit, where you're kind of like, you feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, a lot of people are saying like, what's going on with Tony? Yeah, he is having a little bad luck with the crashes and all that stuff. But I mean, if you think about last year's pace for Yoshimura Suzuki, Tony's faster than last year's pace. I mean, on
Yes,
M4
I saw that.
Suzuki, he is faster than Yoshimura's ever gone on that bike. So, I mean,
Right.
you can't say Tony is struggling. But Attack has just stepped it up so much this year with Richard Stamboli running that program. We're playing catch up, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he's a hard worker, and yeah, you want your teammate closer to you, and that's my main goal is to beat my teammate. But he will be there, and but the overall atmosphere, he's actually has a good attitude. You know what I mean? He
Right.
is a good dude,
Yeah, I've
and he
noticed that.
hasn't, at least, he hasn't, flipped out or anything like that, and he's still trying, you know what I mean? And he will be there sooner than later. But at the end of the day, the pace is hot, and we're playing a little catch up, but we'll be there for sure.
Now, don't take this the wrong way, but
Yeah.
the fact that you don't have a lot of experience with all the stuff you can do to that bike, in a way, do you think that's helpful for you because you're just worrying about just going out and riding the thing instead of? I mean, I look over at Tony's side of the pit, hot pit during a qualifying or practice session, and I mean, it looks like the parts store at the local Suzuki dealership. There's There's shocks everywhere. I mean, I'm just like, holy crap, where's he going? You know. So do you think it's a
Yeah.
little bit of an advantage at this point in time that you don't know more, if that makes sense?
Yeah and no. You know what I mean? And I mean, my whole career, I've always been the underdog on riding, you know, riding not the best equipment. Not counting last year because, I was definitely on great equipment last year, but my whole career, I was kind of the underdog, always trying to beat the factory. So I know what it's like to be playing catch up or not having the best stuff or not having the best, setup. I just got to adapt somehow. You know what I mean? The biggest thing you could change in the motorcycle is yourself, So I just try
Right.
to do what I can with what I got. And the thing is, like, the main thing, what I'm trying to do is just put in laps. You know what I mean? Like, even if, like, when I go out on a session, like, for example, like, I know the bike isn't ideal and I know it feels not the greatest, sometimes, but the biggest thing is me getting used to it. Like, if it feels like hell coming out of the corners, like, just change something. You know what I mean? The biggest thing you could do is change yourself. And if I come in during the session to, like, try to flip that bike upside down, like, one, you're gonna miss half the session. Two, you're gonna miss a lot of laps. You know what I mean? Like, where you could be learning and the confidence. So that's like my biggest thing, is just try to do as many laps as I can. And even if it feels like hell, you just gotta figure it out. And that's what I do, like, on, like, during the week, like, like, if it feels like hell, just figure it out, change something. So
Bobby, I've got a question gonna lead into, but I'm gonna start out by saying I'm gonna call BS on one thing that you told us on a previous podcast.
talk to
And
me.
it's that you said you can't do a wheelie, but every wheelie Wednesday when I look for a photo, there are photos of Bobby Fong doing wheelies last year, this year. I mean, you obviously do power wheelies, so you do get to front end off the ground. And I want to
Six
point out that go ahead.
6 inches doesn't count. I mean, it does in my personal life, but I mean, it doesn't count
Yeah.
with wheelies. I mean,
There's something else you can call bullshit on.
yeah.
Oh man. Oh no, but what I was getting at with that is, you're obviously very self-deprecating with yourself, and it's one of the things I love about you. It's because I kind of am the same way. You're very humble about yourself, but I want to ask you regarding all the things that you can do on that bike. From talking to you, you're pretty analytical, not only with your riding and racecraft, but it seems to me that you know what's going on with the bike, whether it's suspension or whatever. So how much do you talk to? I think Frank Aragaki is your crew chief. Is that right?
Yeah, that Chinaman, he's my crew chief. Yeah, he's an okay guy. He's an okay guy.
So we used to talk to Cameron about how he and Rick Hobbs would have a communication, and riders talk to their crew chiefs and their technicians in certain ways. Some of them are very specific about what they want. Some of them kind of talk about a feel. Where do you land on that? How specific are you with Frank? And is it like it's doing this, or are you saying take a little bit out of the preload? I mean, how do you talk to your crew chief and crew about that stuff?
I talked to that guy a few times during the week just about BS and everything that's going on. And honestly, it's more of a confidence thing. You know what I mean? Like, when I talk to Frank and he says, "Hey, I think this is gonna work." Like, even though, like, that it might not work, just the fact that he is confident that it's gonna work, you have confidence. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this on this bike now. Like, it's more of a confidence thing, with me and Frank, like, during the week and stuff like that. But when I come in, like, during the session and I say, like, "Hey, this is going on, this is going on," like, I'm not the guy that's like, "Hey, do 2 turns of preload and lower the rear and do this." Like, that's not me. But like, when it comes to the electronics side, I'm like, "Hey, why don't you, like, take a little TC out here, like, add engine braking here, or give me this." When it comes to the electronics, that's a little different story. But when it comes to, like, bike setup stuff, I'm more of the guy that's like, "Let's just run it, you know, run it," or like, "Hey, like, why don't we just? What do you think about adding a pound of pressure for the next session or something?" Like, that's me when it comes to, like, bike setup. But electronic side, like, I have more of an input in, like, what I want there. So
Okay, as we go to Road Atlanta, not that Road America was easy by any means, but it's a little bit different than what we're going to face at Road Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to? What do you think? What do you think that's going to be like for you on that Superbike for the first time at Road Atlanta? Because that place seems like it can be a bit of a handful.
You know, honestly, I think it's going to be a lot easier for us. I really
Well,
do.
there I'm wrong again.
Yeah, I really honestly, I think, you know, like the only place that we might struggle a little bit is in the S's, but then I watched the races from last year and it seems like Tony and Josh did great through those S's, you know what I mean? And I know that my bike, at least right now, for how good we're doing on it, or I feel like we probably have a pretty decent setup, or going to have a pretty decent setup for the S's. So I'm not honestly concerned at all. I think it'll be a lot easier than Road America. I think it'll suit our bike a little bit better.
So when you show up at a new place like Road Atlanta, do they have is there like some data from last year, or do you guys just start completely fresh because the data doesn't work or because you don't even have it?
So like now on the chassis side, like me and Frank are doing our own thing. Like our side of the crew are doing our own thing with the suspension. Like we completely are not doing anything what Yosh did on that end. Like whatever they ran, we're not doing on bike setup wise. But the electronic end, like on the electronic side, we kind of start with like a base map from what they had last year and modify their base map to like my trend of what I did like at Road America. So for example, like say Tony had something at Road Atlanta, like okay, they'll take Tony's data or Josh's or whatever, and they'll modify it. Like me, I like more engine braking than Tony. So they'll put more engine braking in already for a start at Road Atlanta. Just like customize what they had from last year for my trend,
Right.
Which is nice.
Which is nice.
Which is nice.
So Bobby Fong, you are a book with many chapters, and I'm always learning something new about you. And I learned something recently about you that I didn't know, and I want to bring it up and ask you about it. One thing, and this isn't what I was going to ask you, but one of the things is you have this interesting pre-race ritual. A lot of guys listen to music. You listen to house music, which tell us
house music.
Yes, so tell us about that, and then I'll ask you next.
I just like to like picture I'm like at a rave, just in a little Speedo, like in a music video, you know what I mean? Just dancing before I go out. I don't know. I just feel the vibe, man. Like I don't know. I listen to like a lot of house music, EDM music, like nothing too like upbeat where it's like techno, just bap, 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 bap. It's a little more slow, So I'm not too much of a hardcore. I listen to rock, but I'm not like more of like a heavy head beating before I go ride. I'm more of like a sensual rider, listening sensual music.
You are sensual. I'll say that.
Jesus, easy.
I know. What are we going with this podcast? What are we doing here?
Well, the part B of that is, a lot of the riders I know, JD Beach is famous for this, and Paul used to talk about it. They would try to get that porta potty as close to the starting grid as possible so that JD could go over and, take care of his business before he went out on the track for the start of the race. You are completely the opposite of that. And this is something I recently found out about you. You drink 1.5 liters of water before you start a race. Can you talk about why you do that? And do you have, I mean, obviously you must sweat it out of you, or you must have to go pretty bad after you get off the track. Tell us about that 1.5 liters of water.
He goes on lap 5 in his leathers.
Honestly, I do so much weird stuff on a race weekend. Like I won't even get on the motorcycle in the morning without having like, maybe 2 liters of water in me. It's just weird. Like, and I know what I like and I know what my body likes. But speaking of the porta potty, I just piss on myself, dude. Like sometimes like when it's hot and I'm lazy, like I'll just piss on myself. I'll just piss on myself. Like, like you could ask my crew members, like, it's like, man, I'm not gonna waste that 3 minutes of going in the porta potty, that hot box, sweating my ass off, and then going back to my bike and wasting that energy. I want to save it for the bike. I'll just pee in myself.
Wow. I mean,
You know?
I do that in my wetsuit, which is kind of nice if it's cold. But
Yeah, yeah.
those leathers have to smell pretty good around round 8.
No, you know what's crazy, man? I don't know if it's like my hygiene or my pee, but like I'm so hydrated. Like, dude, I smell those things like after the race, or like even like when they're dry. I'm like, man, nothing ever happened. I might as well just poo on these things now.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But they don't stink, man.
Seriously,
It's
you're
really odd. Feargan's making it awesome undersuit in those things.
but
Yeah.
seriously, this is another part of this I want to ask you about. So you drink this liter and a half of water, and you talked about something recently called water fasting, and I really want to understand that a little bit. It's maybe something that a fan or one of the other riders or something, if you want to share some of that insight with us. I don't know what that is, and I don't understand what your thing with water is. I understand electrolytes and being balanced, but can you talk about that a little bit? What you do?
No, you know who got me started doing that was Gagne. Jake Gagne did that. We're at American Super Camp one time, and I forget what year, 2018, before the 600, and I needed to lose some like weight. And like Gagne has been doing it a long time. Like he's gone weeks on for not eating. Like you got to ask Gagne about it. But he got me on this kick of, it's just basically cleansing your body and just drinking a hell of a lot of water, and you don't need all this food all the time. You know what I mean? Every once in a while I do a few days of just water fasting and lose some lbs, and you feel great when you're done. You're dying during, but when you're done, you just you're lighter, and you feel better. You're not retaining a whole bunch of water. You're just getting cleaned out, which is nice. It's a good feeling. I haven't done it too much this year just because I really didn't need to lose much weight for the big bike, but it is good for you.
So that's a whole different thing. The water fasting is to lose weight. Obviously, fasting is so you drink water and you don't eat for a while. So that would be, oh my
It's
god.
overall well-being. It's well-being. It's really good for you. But obviously you're dying during, so.
Yeah, but before you go out on the track, I mean, you obviously have to hydrate and get ready because you lose a lot of water sweating it out during a race. Is that why you drink a liter and a half, or do you just crave it and you want to have it at that point?
I just don't want to have any excuses, I definitely don't
Okay.
crave it. That's one thing I don't do. I just don't want to have any excuses. Like when I go on the bike, like my job is to be fit and hydrate and, just be ready. So I know that I'm going to be sweating like crazy and it's hotter than hell outside. So I better be hydrated. I hydrate before too, obviously, like a week prior, like a lot of water. And you know what I mean? We're athletes. We got to try to be athletes. You know what I mean? Try to act professional. So, yeah, I try to do the right thing and not come in when I'm done off the bike and tell my crew that, hey, I couldn't get the job done because I was dehydrated and I fatigued, and I couldn't do my job proper because I know everybody else is busting their ass to get the job done. So I better do my part.
okay, Sean. I have a bad feeling that you're going to try to drink 2 liters of Diet Mountain Dew when we go to Road Atlanta, and I'm worried.
Well, hell, I already
Two
do that, and
see,
that's
two
my
liters. 2 liters is nothing. 2 gallons is another story.
Of
Yeah.
Mountain Dew. I'm talking Mountain
Yeah.
Dew here.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
bad.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I tried to get him to stop drinking soda, and it's not going to work. He
Yeah, it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever, and it's not even the high test stuff. It's the stuff with that NutraSweet in it, which I'm sure Bobby thinks is the worst thing you can put in your body ever.
You're basically drinking a can of cancer.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
lab rat. It's exactly what I am.
Yeah, your best hope is to just go ahead and get COVID.
Yeah, seriously, man.
So,
Brutal. That's brutal.
Bobby, it's got to help you that you're starting your superbike career, but you're at least doing it in a team in which you've raced for and feel comfortable with. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good, but it's not, it's not completely ideal. I mean, I wouldn't choose it no other way, but my guys on my end, they're still learning too, which is it's
True,
definitely a
true.
confidence booster because if they're still learning, I'm still learning, what are we going to be doing at the end of the season? You know what I mean? Hopefully we could keep the momentum going. Because we're still learning together, which is nice. So that means there should be a lot more to come.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that, but you're learning a superbike and they're learning a superbike at the same time, but at least there's some familiarity about how you work with each other, so that helps.
Yeah, yeah, that's really a good thing. And we work well together. I have, me and Frank are, we even room together on the race weekends, and I have the same chassis mechanic and different data guy, Ben Fox, and he has a lot of knowledge behind him, and he's learning the system, as well. But he's been doing good work. The whole team has been doing good work, and kudos to those guys, obviously, because Suzuki had a lot of doubts when they handed over the program to John and Chris Ulrich. So I feel like we're doing a good job.
Bobby, I want to ask you about one other part of your program, and it's the work that Josh Hayes does with you. Well, it's interesting for me to hear about this, and I think the fans will get a kick out of this too, because you would think that what Josh is talking to you about is, well, it's racecraft, I know, but I mean, he's not necessarily talking to you about what to do in this corner or that corner. He's sort of coaching you from a confidence and a mental standpoint a little bit, which with all the experience Josh has had on the track, I understand that's a huge part of it. And I know that was a huge part of his game and what he did. But people that think of rider coaches or coaches that they work with, especially somebody like Josh, it would be like more about techniques and things. And it's really kind of not like that, or at least it's not all of that with Josh. Is that correct? And can you tell us about what he brings to your program?
Yeah, that knucklehead. No, he definitely no doubt it's a lot of the like in the pits on like mind game stuff like that. But I mean, he definitely helps me with like different techniques and approaching different corners. Like I rode America on the Thursday. We walked sections of the track where we did some studying after round one, and just different approach to different corners. And what's weird was it was the biggest thing. It helped me at Barber. Okay, so at Barber, the preseason test, and it was my first time on the Superbike, and Josh was testing the Westby bike, and Josh got behind me out of turn 5 at Barber, and I was entering the museum corner the same way like I've done in the 600, everything, and I've struggled in that corner since day one, like going in there. And it was like, he was like, dude, what are you doing going in there? I'm like, I think I'm doing okay. And it was like, I had so much, like, I had like, 6 feet more to the left I could have gone. I was like pointing straight into the corner, like straight, like where my motor or like my wheel was pointing to the grass instead of to the corner. It was like the weirdest thing. Like, why haven't I never ran more outside going into this corner? Like it set me up for the corner and it was so much easier. But sometimes I just get like locked in my ways, and you think you're doing great, but like the littlest things like that make the world of a difference. So it like, but go ahead.
Sorry, what you're saying, I just wanted to follow up on that a little bit, because I kind of set it up to with the idea that Josh does less of that technique, but I can see, and I figured he would talk about specific corners and stuff, but from what I've read about some things you've said, and even what Garrett Gerloff has said, or even Cameron Peterson, some of what he's talking to you about, I guess it still has to do with racing, but it's almost like life things, or mind things. Is that correct?
It really is true. You know what I mean? Like what Josh usually tells me is don't be a weenie. You know what I mean? Like before you go on the bike, like, hey, don't be a weenie. Do your job. This is your job. Do your job. I mean, it's the littlest things like that make the world of a difference. Like, for example, like the team. You think about, the team is, they got handed down, these motorcycles from Yosh and all this stuff. And like as a rider, like when your team owner and your team owner say like, hey, do good, like podium's good, but like, like try to keep it on 2 wheels. That affects riders. Like when a team owner says that to riders, like it affects riders no matter what. Like you don't want to crash. You never want to crash. But so like how from there, like, okay, how do you push 100%? So there, Josh comes in like, hey man, do your job. Like this is why you got hired, is because you need to go fast. You know what I mean? Just like little stuff like that, little riders are sensitive, man. We're delicate flowers. So he's there to just bring the confidence back. You know what I mean?
Okay, he told me a story I don't even know if I'm supposed to bring it up, but you know it. You'll be fine with it because it's me, and
Yeah, I'll be fine.
we've slept together in the same room, and I
Yeah.
think you even kept a pair of my underwear out of it. But anyway,
Oh, dude, I promise you I did. Keep going.
okay. So
Yeah.
Josh said, I think it was Road Atlanta last year in the Super Sport race, and Hayden Gillum like passed you in front of everybody, like I think going into the last corner. And Josh said you just sort of like freaked
Went
out to the
Stockton
point.
on him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he said you actually went like Stockton gangbanger on him, and like you were determined to, you had to do the same thing to him in the same corner. And he said actually the way you responded in that could have ended up it did end up maybe costing you that race. So these things you just learn from.
You know, it was in that moment on that race, I felt like I was a nice little boy in a cafeteria and some dude just took my lunch money. Like that's the way I felt. Like that's the way I took it. Like this dude came over here and I was eating my chicken nugs and he took my money and my chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I felt. Like it was not gonna happen. Like I would have never, like I would have came in the pits even if I would have won the race. I would have felt like I just got punked. Like that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like don't do that to me. You know?
Right.
Like but it was stupid of me to do it that way. I should have been a little smarter, but I saw red. You know what I mean? Like I saw red and I'm like, you're not going to do this to me. Like, you know, you just stole my lunch money. It's not happening. You know? So, uh,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
it didn't, it never happened since again. Like I've been a little bit smarter, but you know what I mean? As all riders, you know what I mean? We see red sometimes, you know, we saw, we see it in the Superbike class and, you know, everybody has a temper sometimes.
Do you talk to yourself when you're racing?
You know, not really. Like in practice or something like that, I'll just be like, all right, here we go. You know, something like that. But like
Right.
in the race, like, nah, I try not to talk myself. I try not to think at all. Like, I don't want to think, you know what I mean? I just want to just be natural. Like, I just try to hit my marks and just try to be as smooth as I can. But in practice or qualifying, like right before qualifying, I'm like, let's do this. Like, let's go, you know, like breathe or something like that, you know, like not full blown conversations.
Right. Like
I mean,
whenever I've ridden motorcycles, I've had full blown conversations. Probably that's might be my problem. I even do it on my
yeah.
bicycle. Like I just try to like I get myself angry and I get myself worked up and I tell myself I'm an idiot, and you don't do that. That's surprising. I
Yeah.
thought you'd led the class in that.
Yeah, I have thought about what I'm gonna have for dinner before, but I mean, not too.
Right. You're right.
You're like, hey, what am I gonna have for dinner? You
Right.
know, that's
Yeah.
funny.
Bobby, one of the things that people may not know about you, because we see other riders doing this, and we've done some, we've put some videos on our social media. It seems like most of the riders in our paddock, especially the ones that are seasoned riders like you, do a lot of helping other riders or giving back, or you train. And I witnessed today you were talking to somebody, and it sounded like you were helping them with something. It seems like it's a big part of what you do. A lot of athletes, this thing about giving back, I mean, it gets kind of old after a while. It's like, well, people, I guess, should do that and pay it
Yeah.
forward or try to help out. But for you, I don't think people know that you actually do a lot of that stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit? What you do? Do you work with riders in the gym? Do you work with people? I mean, tell us about that.
You know, I've been seeing the same personal trainer since I was 15 years old, and you know, I got to learn a lot of the therapy side of it, the nutrition side, and got certified just like in the training aspect of it. But I've been seeing like we do like a specific training and therapy stuff. We have a cryo and you do ultrasound and scraping and triggers and all that stuff. And I have my trainer is, you know, is also a doctor and he's been doing this for, you know, 40 years. So I've got a ton of knowledge to look up to. And you know, there's like local athletes here in town, like baseball players and all that stuff. And I just kind of like to give back a little bit in the gym, and it keeps keeps me occupied. I'm learning and training at the same time. And what else would I be doing if I didn't do that? You know what I mean? Other than just working out, going home, riding a dirt bike. Like I spend most of my time in the gym now, working with other people, and it's kind of like, our gym's like a family. We know everybody now, and it's nice, man. It's good to help other people, and when somebody relies on you to for their neck to feel better, it's kind of a good feeling. It makes me seem like I'm doing my job correctly. So on the riding aspect of it, I don't. There's not many kids in Stockton that that are racing right now. I mean, there's a lot of kids from motorcycle, but I haven't been out to the flat track here in a while. But whenever I can, I like to give my 2 cents of what I know is right and wrong. So hopefully, whatever I've done for the racing community, I'll continue to help younger riders in whatever way I can.
Okay, I've just got one more for you. I think it would have been after the 2018 season, which was fairly dismal for you.
Hmm.
And I remember being with you and you were sort of like to the point of like, I think I'm actually done with this. And you even went out and got a real job. And then suddenly everything switched and you went out and had a wonderful year last year. And obviously you've started out well this year. Was there a
Hmm.
time when you really thought like, oh man, I'm not going to get to do what I really enjoy to do and the job that I've always wanted? Were you at a point where you thought, okay, it's gone?
You wanted me to be truthful about this?
Of course I do.
Always.
I've I have felt that every off season since my first professional career.
You're a freak.
It is it is the worst feeling in the entire world.
Yeah.
Every single the racing for me is I love it, but I know that it can be taken away in 2 seconds because it's happened. At 2011, at the end of 2010, I didn't have a ride for 11. I didn't have a ride for 2009. You know what I mean? Like there's been a few years where I didn't do anything. Not many people know that, but I didn't have a ride in 2011. I didn't have a ride in 2009. So, I mean, and then I had some one-off rides here and there. Like it could be taken with within a blink of an eye. So I try to do the best I can because I know it's not going to be here forever. And every off season is the most miserable time of my life because you never know if you're going to get a ride, or if you're going to get paid, or what team owner is going to lie to you this time. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or
Right.
what guy is going to come up from behind you and put down give the team some money. And I'm broke as a joke. Like I have no money to give. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, so like I'm just relying on my talent and my personality. So I it sucks when you're the better rider, but if somebody has a better social media or if they have some money behind them, they're going to get the ride. So I've felt that since I was 16 years old. It's a terrible feeling.
Well, hopefully that goes away.
So yeah, but I gotta give it up, man. What's on this topic? Um, John and Chris are, and this year, believe it or not, after winning the championship, I didn't think I was going to have a ride this year. But John and Chris, I mean, and Suzuki wanted Josh Herrin, like no doubt, like they wanted Josh Herrin. Like I wasn't going to get the ride, but John and Chris Ulrich really pulled for me and like, hey, I'm their guy. So like, I've been saying this a lot, but they really have, revamped my career. So thanks to those two not Chris is the knucklehead, but thanks to both of them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we'd agree with that too. But
Uh,
I remember when we talked to you last year before you went to them, and it was kind of like you danced around the situation with them, and they talked to you a bunch of times, and you were kind of like, "Are we going to finally do this or whatever?" And it turned into a championship, and now this superbike ride. So, good things happen to good people sometimes, but we're glad it certainly went that way for you. Um,
no,
I,
thank
I've,
you.
I've got one other question for you, Bobby, and Paul always worries about this, but I just want to preface it by saying this isn't that weird a question, but it's something I've
Whenever he
always wondered.
prefaces it like that, then it's weird.
No,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you always think I'm going to go
I
off the
know.
deep
It's like
end.
Bobby, he always comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, was that creepy?" And I'm like, "If you have to ask me if it was creepy, then it was creepy."
You know for sure it
Well,
was. Yeah, yeah.
this I hope isn't, but it's kind of interesting that you are known as Bobby Fong. I'm sure you were born Robert. I know people
No,
sometimes call you.
how weird is it that I'm a Bobby? You know Bobby Haro? Like I've told you guys this before. You know Haro bikes. I've been
Yeah.
named after
Yeah,
my cousin Bobby Haro.
right.
Yeah.
So
So
you're
I'm a plain Bob. Yeah.
you're always going to be Bobby. I mean, does anybody call you Robert or Rob? It just doesn't happen, right?
Oh my! You have no idea. You know people have called a lot of my personal friends call me Bob, just straight up Bob. Like I'm the old guy,
Right.
Bob.
Yeah, you're Bob.
Bob. Yeah, I'm Bob, and then Bob Fong, and then people call me Fonger. They call me Robert. They call me Roberto. Like some weirdos call me Roberto. Like, dude, like my name, I'll answer to it too. It's like, all right, here we
They call
go.
him, hey, they also call him Sticks In.
Yeah, it's like I answer to it all. Are you talking to me? You know. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, geez, we can't go any further with this. I think we just, I don't know. I'm not sure if we're gonna have to edit some of this out, but
No,
we'll.
never.
It's all golden
Yeah,
stuff, Roberto.
yeah,
We appreciate being on with you, or you being
yeah.
on with us. I
Thanks,
should say.
guys.
It feels like we're on your show, but thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on, Bobby, and I want to also thank the fans out there for listening to our podcast. Just want you guys to please subscribe to MotoAmerica Live Plus, our popular subscription streaming service, and also don't forget to get your weekend tickets too. We've got Road Atlanta coming up, but we're anxious to see how things go for Team Hammer and Bobby. Maybe you can get go 2 in a row or 3 in a row, get on a roll with this. But go to MotoAmerica.com and look for the details on Live Plus and also our ticket purchasing for our race weekend stuff as well. So, Bobby, we want you to wrap up and say some things too. Thanks again for having us on, or coming on with us.
No, no, thanks for having me, guys. And like I said, man, a big shout out to Chris and John. Those two are making it happen. So we'll see you guys at the track in 3 weeks. Hydrate up.
All right, we'll see you in a few weeks, Bob.
Later, guys.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, later.
Talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.